Hello, this is Ryan Swap, and I'm going to be doing a tutorial today on setting up Cucumber with a Meteor app. As you can see here, I'm going to start out with a React Meteor template that I created, but this is framework agnostic, so you could do this with a Blaze app or an Angular Meteor app, and it should all work the same. So what we're going to do to get started here is we are just going to clone this repo, and we will do that right here. And I'm going to call this React Cucumber, just because I'm doing it with a React Meteor app. So we'll clone that in there, and then we'll want to get in there, and let's just start the server up. This template, as you can see, comes with a little shell file so that you can throw some commands in there, and all you have to type is this right here. You don't have to do Meteor -- settings and all that stuff if you want to add settings. So it's just kind of a nice little utility. And we'll use that here, and because this app uses Sass, it's going to fail the first time. I'm not exactly sure why this happens, but when you start a Meteor app with the Bootstrap Sass plugin, it always seems to fail. So we will try that again, and we should be up and running if we go to localhost. Okay, so this is just the basic template. What you can do here is you can log in. I just have a basic user, it's my email and a fake password. You log in, takes you to the home page. Really simple template, but it's nice to get going. And so we are going to test this app with Cucumber. So in order to get started, let's get out of there. We'll go into our app directory, and I need to add Cucumber. So to Meteor add Zalvio Cucumber. So the Sam Hatum and the Velocity guys have done a lot of great work with getting testing set up for Meteor, and so this has actually become quite an easy thing to do, is to set up testing. So we've got the Zalvio Cucumber package installed. Let's open up this app, and in order to get started, we need to do a couple things. So we'll get inside our app directory here, and I've got a test directory here, and I have some Jasmine tests that come with this particular template, but because we're doing Cucumber, we're going to need to add a Cucumber directory here. So we'll add the Cucumber directory, and then Cucumber uses, the way Cucumber is set up is you have features. And I'll show you what features are. They basically describe what the test is going to test, essentially. And then you have what's called a step definition, which is the code that implements the feature. So that probably is a little abstract, doesn't make sense, but we'll dig into it, and I'll show you how that all works. So we need to add a features folder here. And then inside there, we'll add a step definitions folder, and we should be good to go at this point. So for our first feature, we just want to test the home page. So I'm going to add a static pages dot feature. So here we are, and open up the little file viewer so you can kind of see where I'm at. I know that oftentimes is a little nice to see. So to get started, we are just going to write a little basic feature. So the way that's done is you type feature up here at the top, and we can just call this static pages, and generally you describe what, as the user, what you want from this particular feature. So I'm going to say, as a new user, I want to be able to access all of the static pages so that I can see what this app is all about. And you know, this is just kind of something you write with Cucumber tests. It doesn't really do anything. It's just for your benefit and for people that are reading it. So you can write whatever you want there. And one thing that we can do here now is we can describe something that's going to happen before each of the tests. So we do that by typing background, and then I'm just going to say given I am a new user, and then we need to write a scenario, and so we'll call it visit the home page, and when I navigate to this URL, then I should see the title React Meteor template. All right, so, and then one last thing that we need to do, Cucumber gives us a nice little helper. This is actually something that comes with Velocity. You write dev like that, right above the scenario that you want to run. And because this is an integration test and it actually is going to go click through our app, if you're going to do all your tests at once, it takes up a lot of time and it can be, you know, pretty heavy on your machine. And so Velocity and Cucumber provides us with this little dev tag that we can throw above a scenario, and it only runs that particular scenario. So that's a nice feature. So let's turn on our server and see what we did there. So I will run the server, and we will open up our local host, and we'll refresh this page here, and we should get another browser popping up, or maybe not. One thing that we want to do here so that we can see what's going on, oh, there's the browser that I was looking for. So this is going to be pretty cool. This will actually show us what our tests are doing. It'll show us, you know, the little Cucumber bot will cruise through here. It's actually Selenium, but it'll cruise through and click on all our stuff and check everything for us. So we're going to check out the logs for Cucumber. So this will pop up when you start your app. And so we'll just open up a new tab here and throw those on there. And one thing that's really nice about Cucumber is that it gives you code to put into your app. So we can just grab this, and these are our step definitions. So we'll go back to our text editor here, and under step definitions, we just need to make a static pages.js file here, and we will jump in there. It looks like this gave me a little bit more code. I think I only grabbed, yeah. So we can actually grab this code here. And so as you see, this is just a regex. It's I am a new user, and where that comes from is this feature, I am a new user. So it's nothing magic, just regex checking what you wrote inside of here. And Velocity Cucumber is smart enough to know what code to print out to get you started with your step definitions. So we'll go back into our step definitions here, and we're just going to wrap this in an immediately invoked function, and this is just something you have to do. So nothing too serious here. Sure, it's something that most people have probably seen if you've played around with JavaScript at all. And one thing that's kind of cool is that this is Node, right? We're running Node. So what we can do is we can just grab a Node module. So I'll require a URL module to help us. And then I'm just going to paste in here all that code that I grabbed. So we can clean this up a little bit. And then we'll finish this off with our closing tags. And then we will immediately invoke that. And if I do that, then if we see over here, Cucumber will run and it shows us that our tests are pending. So we need to get these tests to pass. And we will just come over here, and in order to get this one to pass, all we have to do is invoke the callback. So Cucumber will run, and there we go. We've got a passing test. And so the way that this works is we can either send a callback. We can either call a callback to end this step definition, or we can return a promise. And so this is basically just a setup step. It's not really doing anything. It's just there for clarity. We're describing that we're a new user coming to this app. And so we'll actually get into writing some code here. So in order to get this one to pass, so when I navigate to that URL that I gave it, we'll call this relative path, be a little bit more descriptive. And this is what I was talking about with returning a promise. So we can do return and then this.client. And the way that Cucumber works is you can either do this.client or this.server to access different methods. And so this.server will actually let you access your Meteor methods, which is pretty cool. And we'll do an example of that a little bit later. But I'm going to use that. And I guess I should say that this.client is actually representing a WebDriver IO. So if I go back to Chrome here, I've got this pulled up. WebDriver.io is what's powering all of this. And so once you do this.client, you can use any of these little actions they've got here. And so they pretty much got, you can do just about anything here. You can test drag and drop. You can do all kinds of stuff. And I'll show you a few of those. So let's go back to our app here, and one of the things you can do is go to a URL, and so I'm going to use that node module and resolve, if I can type. So there's automatically inside of the test mirror, you can access the root URL with process.m.root URL. And then we will also give it that relative path parameter up above. And once it goes to that URL, we just want it to, there's this little function that lets you wait for the page to actually render. So we're just going to wait for the H1 to render. So when I save this, and we come back over here, we should pass the second one. All right, we're good. So right here, this is our test browser, so you can see that it went to the home page. So that's kind of cool. And then we want to tell it to, when we come here, we should see this React Meteor template H1. So what we can do here is we'll get rid of that callback because we're going to return a promise, and we'll describe that variable a little bit better. And so that variable is just describing what I put inside of here. And so if we go back to the static pages feature, we can see that I'm putting React Meteor template. And so that's just what that regex is grabbing. So I guess let's get out of here. We will do return this.client, and just in case that the page hasn't loaded, we're going to wait for the H1 to load, and we're going to say get the text of the H1, and it should become the expected title. So if we save that, then our tests pass. So we are all good there. So that's pretty basic. We just wrote a feature, and we told the feature, you know, given I'm a new user, when I navigate to the home page, I should see this particular title. And that's all good, well, and I think a lot of Cucumber tutorials only cover that. But I think one of the things a lot of people like to know is, like, how do I test a login? And so that's what we'll do next. We'll test the login feature. So what we need to do now is create a new feature. So we'll just call this user login.feature, and then we will create the associated step definition. Alrighty, and you can see that the tests keep going. What we can do to get that to stop is we can just remove this dev tag right here. So I'll do that, and then we should have no more tests to go. So let's get started with our user login feature. It's nothing too intense, but we'll get started on that. Feature user login as, let's see, an existing user. I want to be able to log in so that I can access the awesome app. And again, we're going to give it a background feature here, and I'm going to say, given I am an existing user and I navigate to the login URL. So that's what we're going to have the tests do before each of these features. So our scenario is to log in, I guess. And I'm going to say, when I enter my email, and password, and I submit the form, then I should see the home page. So one thing to note here is that you'll notice that I'm using kind of the structure is given and when and then. Given, pretty much these are all interchangeable. You don't necessarily, I mean, you could do it however you want. It's basically just to help you to understand the structure of the steps and what you're doing. So don't get caught up in, you know, is it a given or is it an and or is it a when or a then? That stuff doesn't really matter. So don't really worry about that. And to get this scenario to run, we need to add the dev tag here. So once we do that, we'll see our tests start up again. And look at that. We got some nice step definitions here. So we will copy those, and we'll go into our login step here, and we'll do the same thing we did before. An immediately invoked function. And then here I can just paste in this code. Sometimes my Vim commands don't work for me. Okay. So we'll close this guy up. Oh. invoke it, and we should be good to go. So if I do that, then we will have our pending tests. So we'll come back up here, and we can't just pass the callback because this step says, given that I am an existing user. So we actually need to create a user before this will actually work. So we'll come over here, and I'll get rid of that. And we need to set up some fixture data here in order to get this working. So what I can do is probably the best way to get fixtures set up in a Meteor app is to, inside of your app directory, create a packages directory. And then inside of the packages directory, I'm going to make a fixtures package. So we will throw that in there. And then inside the fixtures package, we just want to have a package.js file. And we're going to want a, we'll just do a fixtures.js file. So I've got some code that I'm just going to paste in here. It's just some generic package code. So basically what we've got here is just very simple, naming it, versioning it, not putting a summary, but just a blank string there. And then notice the debug only option we're passing it. This basically just means that this package will only run on the test mirror for Velocity as well as the development environment. And then we're just going to use this fixtures.js file that I created. And I've also got some code for that. So I'm just going to paste that in and speed things up. So here, I'm just going to paste that in there. And I'm just adding some Meteor methods. We've got a reset method that just removes all the users. And one thing to note, when this is run inside of a test, the test has its own database, so this will not affect your development environment at all. So you don't need to worry about that. And then we've got a seed data fixture function here, and this simply just creates a user. It creates a user with that email and password that I put in the step or the feature for the user login. So now that we've got that in place, we should be good to add that package to our app. So I'm going to jump over to the terminal and probably want to close that guy up, see if it stops barking at us. Okay, we're good. Back to here, shut this down. We go into the app directory, Meteor, add awesome fixtures. Cool beans. I think we're ready to roll. So I'll start the server back up again. And let's see if the Cucumber log starts up when I, oh, there we go. Didn't have to do anything. So Cucumber is starting up and the browser should pop up again. There we are. So this is going to be kind of cool to watch. So this browser will actually, it'll show us like going in, adding our login info and logging in. So let's come back here and we want to fill in the rest of our user login step definition. So here's our first one. We need to get this all ready to go. So I mentioned earlier that you could do this dot server dot call or this dot client. So we're gonna use the this dot server, and I'm just gonna grab this so we can reference that and say this dot server dot call, and I'm just gonna call that fixtures method. And because this is a promise, you can say when that's done, we want you to call that fixtures seed data method. So if we save that, then our test should pass the first one. And look at that, it says that we also passed the second one, but we haven't set up a step definition here. And what's happening here, which is actually kind of cool, is that these step definitions are global. So you can actually reuse them. And the reason why that's passing is because we've actually already defined that step definition. So if we come back to our static pages, this is the step right here. So this will actually just work for any other feature that as long as we use the same exact wording, it'll work for us. So that's kind of a nice thing. So we'll go back here, and the next thing that we need to do is when I enter my email and password. So we don't need the callback because we're going to return a promise. And I'm just going to make these variables, these parameters, a little nicer. And so we'll do return this dot client, and we'll set the value of the, I believe it's name. Hopefully that's right. And we'll just set it to the email that we passed in. We'll set the value of the password. And I think that should be it. So before I save this file, I'm going to come here so we can watch what this does. So when I save this, this is going to come through here and it's going to fill in that information. So that's pretty cool. And where I'm getting this set value from is from the WebDriver IO API. So I'll just search for it real quick. Set value, there we are. So we just, you can submit a form, you can do all kinds of stuff. We're just using this set value feature here. So we will go back to our app, and we've got everything running up to here. So we need to submit the form. So let's come here, we'll get rid of the callbacks, we don't need that. And then we will submit the form. Easy enough. So if we do that, we come back here, we can watch it. So just submit the form for us. It looks like we're logged in, but we want to programmatically check that we're logged in. So let's get rid of that callback, and we'll say let's wait for, because we don't have a Jumbotron on the login page, so we could just wait for the Jumbotron to appear. And the Jumbotron is just a Bootstrap class if you're not familiar with that. Nothing special, it's just a class on the body of the home page. And then we're going to get the text from the H1, and we want to make sure that we got redirected to the home page. So if we run our tests again, and voila, we passed. So this is basically a rundown of how you can do things in Cucumber, a little bit more complex things like testing a login system. And sometimes, you would want to, in like a background, say we're testing some part of our app that's behind a login, so you need to log in before you do it. So we would, we'd want to say, given I'm an existing user and I have logged in. And one thing you can do here is in like your step definitions folder, you can create another folder in here, and we'll call it support. And inside of support, you can do all kinds of helpers. So, you could do a user authentication helper. And basically what that would look like is it would be pretty much the same thing as this. And so it would, call the fixture reset, the seed data, and it would set the value, submit the form, and then make sure that we're on the home page. So it would pretty much just, it would be a function that would just do all this stuff. And then you could call it, with this.server.call, and it would just go through to do everything for you. So it'd all be taken care of in one step. But that's how you would do that. If you have any questions in particular, feel free to leave a comment, and I'd be happy to discuss it further. But I hope that was helpful. I know that testing seems like it's kind of painful, but I think that as your app grows, it becomes really beneficial because you can immediately tell if you broke something, because your Cucumber will go through your app and be like, oh, this isn't working anymore, and you'll know that something's wrong. And that way, when you deploy, one of your users doesn't have to tell you that it's wrong. So make sure you test. It's a good thing to do, and hope you enjoyed this video.